Hi and welcome to Healthy Life Hacks. I'm Jefferies, the present day wise woman, a realistic naturopath coming to you from the surfing beaches of Australia. This podcast is for those of you who are wanting to really rock your life and health and live from a place of prevention. Let's get into today's episode. The lights dim, the TV flickers, and suddenly your mind whispers to you, Jen, just a little nibble. You've earned it. You've been good all day. Did you know that that innocent late night snack could be sabotaging your metabolism? Research is showing us that eating when it's dark or too close to bedtime disrupts our internal clock, and it shifts hormones and slows the rate at which our body burns fuel, which is metabolism. So yes, our body stops operating with us after sundown. We're meant to kind of eat when the sun's up and eat before the sun goes down. It's huge. So let's dig into what's happening behind the scenes and how we can turn the tide. So you've probably heard about circadian rhythm, that metabolic pulse that runs through our body kind of on a 24-hour clock. So the circadian rhythm, imagine it's an internal timing system that coordinates our sleep, our hormone release, digestion, and metabolism. And it's all synced to light and dark. So when we eat in harmony within daylight hours, our physiology, how our body works, is primed to digest, break down sugars, and convert fuel efficiently. And when we eat through the wrong times, which is later evening and night, we clash with that rhythm. Now, there's tons of controlled human studies out there showing that meals later in the day show real metabolic drop-offs. One study showed that eating late, so in the evening after dark, reduced waking hours, energy expenditure by about 5%. You think, oh, Jen, that's only 5%, which translates to about, 59, 60 calories a day. And you think, well, then that's not much. No, however, if you're maintaining that as a lifestyle over time, that's really impacting. And so the study was run where people ate the same foods, and the only difference was that one group ate later. And so again, you're thinking, oh, Jen, it's not that giant. It's, 60 calories. I promise it impacts over time, especially if you're wanting to be strong, fit, and healthy, maybe drop a few kilos or a clothing size and just be rocking your body to be healthy as we age. It all counts. So the other thing that showed that, which is really interesting, is that our body temperature over the whole 24 hours also dipped. Which means lower body temperature, lower heat, means a lower metabolic output, means our body is not utilized in burning up, so to speak, food's calories more efficiently. So what does it all mean? What's the end result of things like that? We know that it absolutely disrupts our hormones and it disrupts how our body stores fat. So eating later at night shifts our hormone rhythms, insulin, cortisol, melatonin, and it sends confusing signals to our body. Our digestive system becomes less efficient, and our body's more inclined to store excess fuel as fat instead of burning it up. And so remember how I said a moment ago that impact of that is happening for the next 24 hours as well, not just on what you've eaten that night. It's impacting through the rest of the day, the next day. There was an interesting study that was done which compared daytime versus delayed eating over 8 weeks. So those with the delayed schedule, so eating later, eating into the evening, gained metabolic disadvantages, even though the calorie intake was exactly the same. So night eating and our metabolic risk, what's going on? If someone said to you, there's one thing you can do that can help you have your body operate 3 times more efficiently than not, especially when it comes to metabolism, would you want to do it? I sure would. So in a study with 8,000 Japanese adults aged 40 to 54, middle-aged, there were 2 groups. One combining dinner immediately before bed and snacks after dinner versus one having the meals earlier in the day. And they found with men 2.11 higher odds of obesity and women 3.02 higher odds of having obesity compared to those without those habits. That's huge. So know that, I'm just a late night person and I eat late. Well, guess what? That's 100% increasing your health risks by 3 times and especially even things with weight, obesity. Late night eating has also been shown to influence things like bad cholesterol, high blood pressure, impaired glucose tolerance, and that central obesity. And so we know they're all markers for metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome is that collection of ailments, and I've done podcasts on it about how they're lifestyle imbalances. And part of that lifestyle imbalance is to be eating too late at night. And if we think of our forefathers and foremothers, they ate earlier. They got up and ate in the sun, in the morning, and they ate at sunset in the night. And that's a better habit for us. It's a habit I actually have. I eat earlier. In winter, I've been eating well and truly by 4:35 p.m. And in summer, I eat a little bit later, but I eat earlier than later. And I've totally noticed a difference in how my body operates. And I used to brag about being the late night girl before I burned out, paid the price, understood the importance of sleeping. But then there's also the big importance of eating late at night and the impact that it's having on our body. So it's not just anecdotal. It's shown seriously across so many studies that eating later at night, it's a metabolic disruptor. It is just switching things off. So what are the main reasons that that's happening? One is that circadian rhythm, I said. Our body, our tissue clocks are expecting to be fasting, not eating late at night. And when we eat, it signals our liver and our muscles and our fat to misfire. And our body doesn't burn up, if you want to use those words, stored energy as efficiently. That's huge. And so food produces less heat. That's the other thing that happens at night. And so, which is the byproduct of metabolism. So during the later hours, we burn, burn's the wrong word. However, it's a one that people know. We burn fewer calories just by processing food later. Insulin's less effective. And like insulin sensitivity is huge nowadays. Our cortisol shifts, sugar clearance is low, and fat storage is easier. That's the bottom line. When we're sedentary, we're laying down, slowing down into the evening. Absorption of everything is just less efficient. And it all equals basically a fire that's meant to be happening, a furnace with weaker flames at night. And so anything we add in, we fuel in, is less likely to get burned off. So it's not about being skinny, it's about being healthy. Because I do so much work, particularly up in Asia, and a lot of people who are really trim and thin, and yet they can still have high visceral fat. And I know very much in Asia and in just the corporate world, in the Western world nowadays, the same, that eating later at night, it's a habit, it's a way of being. However, if we think about our forefathers and foremothers, they didn't eat that way and they had totally different health. So it's something to think about. Now, we don't want you to feel like you're living in food deprivation, okay, by eating only when the sun's shining. You want to make it work for you. However, even eating a little earlier will make a difference. So what are a few simple practices, some BAM practices? One is set dinner at cutoff time, 2 to 3 hours before bed. If you go to bed by 10, you want to be finished your eating ideally 7:30, and even earlier if you can, all right? There was a controlled trial that showed that daytime scheduled eating versus delayed, so in other words, eating during the daylight hours versus later at night, led to much better weight profiles, energy metabolism, and hormonal markers, even when the calories match. So I talked about that. The next one is when our body is fed in about a 10-hour window, just either side of that, means, you have breakfast in the morning and you're closing out your eating by earlier in the evening, it makes a difference. And the metabolic markers tend to improve. If you are going to eat later in the evening, choose low demand foods. All right. So what are low demand foods? Good proteins, good fibrous veggies, minimal refined carbs that are putting less metabolic stress on our body at night. And they're not going to go spiking insulin as much. So we want to keep away from refined sugars, processed carbs, and heavy fats. However, what do most people crave in the evenings? They're going for, crappy carbs, crappy sugars, crappy fats. So what do we do around it? Eat earlier. Make sure you're having enough protein in your meals so that you're satiated in the evenings and aren't going to physically be looking for more food later. Now, if there's an emotional habit around how you're feeling and that's got a link to why you're overeating, eating more in the evenings, well, then that's something different to address. Another huge benefit is to, if you do eat something, the trade-off is you need to be doing some light movement or stretching. That's it. And especially even after dinner, going for a 10-minute walk. I love to go for a 10-minute walk. Just go around the block after I have dinner at night, which is much easier now that summer's coming versus the middle of winter when it was cold and dark, but it makes a difference. So when we do a gentle walk or we do something, some stretching or that, do some squats, do 10 squats. Oh my God, just 10 squats, 10 wall push-ups. Do something. It helps to open the door for insulin sensitivity, and it helps our metabolism to be more responsive, even in the evening hours. I bang on about stress and sleep all the time, but lowering cortisol and prioritizing sleep, ideally in bed 5 nights a week by 10 p.m., absolutely helps our hormones to play nice, particularly things like insulin, leptin, and ghrelin, which are all super involved for when it comes to weight. The next one is don't go cold turkey. If you're used to going to bed late and late night eating, shift your dinner to 15, 30 minutes this week. And then next week, bring it back 15 or 30 minutes. And do it over a few weeks, because those small, consistent changes win long-term versus going, that's it, Jen said I've got to do that. You go cold turkey, you do it for one day and go, fuck that, I can't do it. Just bring it back a step at a time, step at a time. I want people to have changes that work for them and are sustainable, because like going flat out and then thinking, no, I can't keep that up, it's useless. Where small changes build a stronger foundation means you can make it sustainable. So here it is. These are the goals for the next week. This week, slide your dinner 30 minutes earlier, and or ideally even go for a 5-minute walk after your last bite. 5-minute walk after your last bite. If you're going to choose to have a late night snack, make it a healthier one. Okay. That's the choice. No, skip the crappy carbs, crappy sugars, and crappy fats. Now, if you're a shift worker, this changes because your day, your working, and your night are reversed. And so you get to treat your body, your routine, as whenever is your day, and whenever your night is your night, and keep the same disciplines. I know shift workers, you're behind the 8 ball right from the start. So for shift workers, I always recommend that they take adaptogen herbs, because adaptogens help us adapt to stress, and our body is meant to be asleep, between that 2 and 4 a.m. And for shift workers like nurses and that, they're awake, and it's absolutely influencing the results of our body. So as our hormones shift, especially in times like perimenopause and menopause, our insulin sensitivity changes. We're shrinking lean mass naturally, and so the timing of food eating routines totally becomes more relevant, more important. So late night eating periodically is fine. However, doing it regularly can be that extra bit of metabolic drag that is stopping you from losing the weight you want to lose. And it's absolutely inviting insulin resistance in, which just makes getting back on track harder. So don't give yourself a hard time. If you've been doing it and it's being a habit, guess what? All habits to change can be a little bit wonky to start with. So just set the intention for the next week, 5 nights. Just go for 80%. 5 nights this week, you're going to eat your dinner 30 minutes earlier, and you'll go for a 5-minute walk afterwards. That's it. Keep it simple. Keep it achievable. I promise it's worth it. I want to thank you for being here today. If you enjoyed my podcast, please let me know by leaving a review on Apple Podcast. Every month, I draw one lucky person who leaves a review, have a free 1-hour consultation with me. Be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you're tuning in from, so that you always catch the next episode. I welcome your emails, and you can write to me at podcast@healthylifehacks.com.au. Until next time, remember, when it comes to life, live it, love it, and get on with it.